Welcome back, my Duelist friends. Casual Duelist here. It's another Wednesday. So again, happy Wednesday, halfway through the week. And again, this is Heroes Week. So last video, Monday, we went ahead and gave you guys a great Destiny hero build. And I say great because it was really like my first 30 card build that I've done. And it was a lot of fun to play. Today is something that you may or may not want to take to a local, still fairly casual. And this time we're going to be dealing with evil heroes. So which skill are we going to use? We're going to use this one right here. We're going to use Supreme King Jaden and Dark Unity. So we're going to disregard a ton of this card. Really, the reason we're playing this is not so we can use super polymerization. It's not so we can change the type of a special summon monster the opponent controls to rock. It's so that we can discard one card once per duel and then add one copy of Dark Fusion from the deck to our hand. That is the entire reason we are playing this skill card. This is just a Dark Fusion fetch. So it's good. And that really, honestly, that's actually going to help speed up the deck. Because if you think about it, being able to fetch Dark Fusion just at will makes it so much easier. Plus, when we're playing 23 cards, this helps the offset just a bit. So, main part of the deck. First thing we're going to play is 2 copies of Burstinatrix and 2 copies of Sparkman. Because we have 2 specific fusions we'd want to play into. Those are going to be the Lightning Golem and the Inferno Wing. And you guys are like, but you're missing 2 materials. I know. There's no Avion. There's no Clayman, right? Instead, we are going to stack the deck full of fusion substitutions. 3 copies each of Goddess of the Third Eye and 3 copies of the Versago the Destroyer. These 2 monsters have the same ability, and so for the most part, I always talk about them in the same breath. They can be used as a substitute for any one fusion mentioned by name on a fusion monster card. Other materials must be correct. And you're like, oh, cool. All right. So this is almost half of your deck. We could say it's half if we go ahead and we do our spells out of order. And the reason I say that is we do have 2 copies Reinforcement of the Army in here. These 2 copies Reinforcement of the Army help it so that we're not getting totally monster locked all the time. Again, we do have to discard a card in order to get to our Dark Fusion. So having 6 fusion substitutions doesn't really hinder us that much. But rather than running these at 3 plus Reinforcement of the Army, it's easier to go 2/2/2 for all 3 of them. And plus, then we don't have to worry about what our 2 of will be on the ban list. Moving into the rest of the spells, 2 copies Book of Moon for obvious reasons, 1 copy Cosmic Cyclone, obvious reasons, 1 copy Dark Fusion, and I understand where your confusion is going to be. Why would you only play 1 of these? Well, because it's searchable. I want to guarantee this card, but I also want to play the other one, which is why this is out of alphabetical order as well. So all Dark Fusion is fusion summon for a Fiend monster with the additional benefit of the opponent cannot target it with effects this turn. So that's all that is. So we're going to go 1 Dark Fusion with a double Dark Calling. Now remember, the Dark Fusion was searchable. We get it every game, no matter what. We either start with it naturally, at which point we don't need the skill, or we search it out, at which point we had plenty of cards to help us do that. Dark Calling, on the other hand, fusion summons 1 monster from the extra deck, must be one that has to be played with Dark Fusion by banishing materials from hand and or graveyard, which is crazy because I think it's, I forget the hero one, Miracle Fusion, I want to say is field and graveyard as opposed to hand and graveyard. But this also allows us to, if, say, we were to have 1 of each of Burstinatrix and Spark, and 1 of the fusion substitutes, we could banish 1 from the hand, 1 from the graveyard that was used after we already fused the other 2 from the hand, and you can have both of your fusion monsters hitting the field side by side, ready to do their jobs. Up next, 2 copies Evil Mind. Again, each one of these is going to be a minimum draw 1 by the time you activate these, so don't even worry about it. This is going to help you offset the deck size as well. Getting too excited. So the way Evil Mind works is if you control a Fiend type monster card, and again, That's either Versaga the Destroyer or either of the 2 fusion monsters. You get to activate these effects based on the number of monsters currently in your opponent's graveyard. If there's at least 1 monster in the opponent's graveyard, draw a card. So boom, right there. If there's 4 or more, you get to add a hero monster and or a dark fusion. Sorry, not and or, either one or the other, from the deck to the hand. Also fine. If there's 10 or more, and this should never happen, you get to add a polymerization spell or 1 fusion spell from the deck to your hand. You can only activate 1 copy of this per turn. So again, 2 is pretty good. If you started with both, you could probably drop 1 for the Unity, get into your fusion, play the other one, get your draw, and you'd be just fine. Next up, big hits for this deck. We're going to be using 2 copies of Fusion Weapon, guys. This deck does have some potential to OTK in the form of the Inferno Wing, because again, everything that is normally a Flame Wingman or Flame Wingman adjacent can generally OTK. Fusion Weapon's going to do this for us. Equip to level 6 or lower Fusion monster cards, give them 1500 to both stats. Crazy, right? And then last but not least, copy of Nightbeam. This is what brings it up to 23. And Nightbeam's just, you guys know why I'm playing Nightbeam. So real quick, let's move the skill in here, make it a nice, easy approach. Guys, screen cap, shot, whatever it is, or pause plus notes. I'll be back with the extra deck and the side deck in just a moment. All right, so let's talk extra deck first. Mostly because it's going to go a little bit quicker, but honestly, the side deck is pretty self-explanatory stuff. So going into the extra deck, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Inferno Wing. So again, must be special summoned using Dark Fusion, or Dark Calling in this case. If this card attacks a defense position monster, you get off Piercing. So again, looking at the 6-star rating, you understand already we are going to be getting the Fusion Weapon buff, which is fine. And then be able to pop off with big Piercing. If this card destroys a monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, inflict damage to the opponent equal to the original attack or defense, whichever is greater of that monster in the graveyard. So let me lay out a scenario. Opponent sets Giant Soldier of Stone, 2000 defense, 1300 attack. Inferno Wing gets special summoned to my side of the field. I equip it with, you guessed it, Fusion Weapon. My card is now worth, what was that again? Like 3,600 points. So I'm going to deal 1,600 points of piercing damage because, yeah, I just beat the crap out of Giant Soldier of Stone, right? So 1,600 damage, right? And then I get to choose, because I destroyed it and sent it to the graveyard, either its attack or its defense and deal that in damage. Now, if this was Flame Wingman, the choice would not exist, neither would the piercing. Instead, you would just deal 1,300. Instead, we've already dealt more than that simply by just attacking it with the piercing. Then we're going to get to finish off with a beautiful 2,000 point additional burn because of the Infernal Wing effect. So if you guys are looking for like a really cool way to play a variant of like Flame Wingman OTK, Infernal Wing is an excellent option, if not totally diabolical. Plus, it looks cool. I mean, I love like the dark mechanical almost look to the Avion wings this way. And yeah, it's a great card. And then next up, you want to play 3 copies of the Lightning Golem. Honestly, I just went 3 and 3 because like, what else was you going to play? I don't run Waking the Dragon in this one because I really feel like the side deck can't be gimmicky or similar to anything else. But this one is Spark and Clay. Again, play it with Dark Fusion and effect. Once per turn, target a monster on the field and destroy it. It's just that simple. Just target a monster and destroy it. There's no cost. It's not when it's summoned. Just once every turn, point at something and watch it get zapped. And he starts at 24. And if he gets a fusion weapon, he's at 39. It's 3,900 and he points and blows monsters up. Like, I don't know how much better this deck could get. Now, I will make a sidebar note real quick. If you guys want to tech this out a little bit more and you don't mind the cards being slightly weaker, what you could do is you could swap out Burstinatrix for Avion, and you could add Wild Cyclone. Using the same thing, what you end up having is this is part Avion, this is part Avion, and this is part Sparkman. So you could run the same deck, you just change one fusion monster substitute, or sorry, one of the material monsters. You gain access to Wild Cyclone as well, at which point, whenever it attacks, the opponent can't activate spell traps until the end of the damage step, and when it inflicts battle damage to the opponent, you destroy all their set spell traps anyway. The reason he's not in here is the star level. He is 8 stars. He does not work with a fusion weapon, but if you wanted to, you could take the fusion weapon out and substitute this boy in as an alternative route. It does work. It's not as effective, so that's the reason why we just didn't do it this time. But going into the side deck, the additional options, I do have a second copy of Dark Fusion because sometimes you just want to be more aggressive with that. We do carry the third copy of Evil Mind here. It's very good. Drawing one is never a bad idea. Same thing, maybe you need the weapon more often. Get the fusion weapon more often. Play the third one here. Same thing with back row. Maybe back row is a pain in the butt. The way we have it built up, with already 3 of the 3 ofs in the main, cannot put one in the side. You can't just be like, well, I want to side out a Book of Moon for another Cosmic Cyclone. No, you can't have 4 of them in the build. So just go with an extra Night Beam. And then last but not least, the thing that also really helps this deck as well as anything else is 2 copies of Lost Wind. Lost Wind still puts into work, still protects you from special summon monsters, still takes away half their value, still takes away their effects. And honestly, when you start subbing this up with, again, the Inferno Wing, you get some crazy cool plays. Okay, not every one of my decks has to play Waking the Dragons. This deck doesn't really fit it, doesn't really suit it. This is one of those times where I'm telling you, just go ahead and play the cool cards and enjoy the maybe easy wins. Depends on the local meta, depends on who's playing what that day. Again, usually when I talk about OTKs, I'm talking about things that are glass cannons. There's a lot of ways that this deck can just stonewall you with brick draws. But more often than not, I was successful in playtesting, and you guys should end up being just as successful on the play table. So I do hope that you guys enjoy this. And if you did, and if you do, consider supporting the channel. It's as easy as like, comment, subscribe. It helps with the algorithm and helps other duelists find the channel. And even if you don't want to do that, do me one favor. Go out, have an excellent day today. Do everything in your ability to make it the best day of the week. I mean, I know Friday's coming up soon. I know we get another little weird OTK coming out. But enjoy it. Enjoy your day. And I hope to see you guys again later on in the week. All right. Till then, you guys have a good one. Later.